on the family station Love 101. So, quite a few answers to go through after this feature, but yeah, let's see if anyone can nail it. And I know how many persons are trying to dig deep, dig deep, dig deep. But anyway, behind the pulpit today, we have a man who has a very storied past. He was involved in gang-related activities. He was a Rastafarian, but God transformed him, and today is he's an author, writing the book Relevant Church, a God-given role. He's a founder of Street Pastors Initiative, among other things. We speak of Pastor Les Isaacs. Welcome to Behind the Pulpit here on Love 101. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here as well.
Awesome, awesome. Now, tell us about there's so much about your past that we will uncover, but firstly, tell us on, your early childhood. What was it like for you as a child?
Well, I was born in Antigua, and I was born shortly after that period where people started to migrate from the Caribbean to England some 70 years ago. But my parents migrated to the United Kingdom in the early 60s, and they sent for myself and my sisters. And in 1965, we arrived as children in England. And so you can imagine the culture shock. I often tell people that when I went to England, I had culture shock on various different levels.
What were some of the areas?
Sorry?
What were some of the areas that, culturally it was a shock for you?
Well, first of all, I remember saying to some people, good morning, and greeting them as I knew, because I was brought up with manners and respect. And people just completely blanked me, totally ignored me. And I really couldn't make head or tail of that. And then I discovered, that I was Black. I didn't know that before. My parents didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And I discovered racism and prejudice. And as well, after I went to church for a while, I came to the conclusion, I began to ask myself, how comes the Jesus that I see in the church look like the people who hate me? So there was a lot of questions that I was asking. And of course, one of the big things for me as well was my parents divorced, separated at a very young age of 7. And that had a profound impact on me as well. Wow. So you can imagine all those things happening. And I remember wanting to run away and go back to the Caribbean.
Wow. Was there any reprieve that you had, any solace at any level at school, any friends that you could rely on for some level of solace, or was it all that pressure just on you at that time?
It was pressure, but I remember there was a teacher there, Mr. My wife's a school teacher. My daughter-in-law, my daughter, my son-in-law, they're all school teachers. And I always say to my wife, listen, honey, children always remember not the strictest teacher, but the caring teacher and the teacher who is fair. And I had a teacher he was very fair, and he probably understood or saw something in me, saw that I was troubled, saw that I was there. And his name was Mr. Draper, and he sort of took it on himself to really encourage me. And so I never forgot that. But I remember went to school and, 4 white boys wanted to beat me up. And they went, and I ran to a teacher in the playground, and she just held me. And those 4 boys just kicked me and punched me. And I couldn't make heads or tail of that.
Wow.
So it was a difficult time. It was a turbulent time for me as a young kid.
Wow, I can only imagine that. Wow. So all of that bitterness and that anger would have, spilled over, as you mentioned earlier, in your view of Jesus, because you're seeing someone who represents your oppressors, and that's how you'd have perceived them at the time.
Very much so. And when I was a child, children are seen and not to be heard. So, I couldn't ask my parents, how come Jesus looked like the white man who hit me? I couldn't,
Mm,
you know what I mean? They'd have boxed me on my head, you know what I mean? And I struggled with, the notion of Jesus with blonde hair, blue eye. And I struggled with church because it meant for me um, everything about people who didn't like me because of the color of my pigmentation. It meant struggle. It meant prejudice. It was too much negativity for me.
So that led you to the Rastafarian faith.
Very much so. But, it was interesting because it started off with anger. It
Yeah.
started off with anger. And before the Rastafarian, very young age, before I was 11, I was angry. I was incredibly angry. And out of that, I did some nasty things, to people and all sort of things. And, it was me as well, looking for spirituality, and I didn't know, but I was looking for some sort of spiritual redemption. I was looking for some spiritual emancipation. I was looking for something that would help me. And, my involvement with gangs and with knives and all kinds of things was led me to a place where I felt there must be something better in life than this. And for me, Rastafarian came in on several levels. One, it gave me hope and aspiration. It talked about repatriation. It talked about Zion. So there was hope. There was an anticipation of something better. Then it talked about freedom. And these were, things I was thinking about that the church or my parents or wider society wasn't talking about. And then Rastafarianism, taught me about being who I am, black, proud of my heritage, proud of Africa. So it gave me an identity that I desperately needed in a
Mhm.
society that rejected me, that was
Mm.
hostile towards me. So, I tell people all the time, I'm grateful for my journey through Rastafarianism in terms of identity and in terms of really coming to a place of, contentment with who I am and anticipation
Mhm.
about a freedom.
Okay, okay. And you find that many persons are still looking for that as they seek after hope through the Rastafarian faith. That's your experience as well?
Yes, very much so. I travel widely, widely, and I meet people.
Hmm.
I remember I was in New Zealand and I was walking down the street and I hear this woman say, "Pick the way I go on the way," in New Zealand, right? So I looked around and it was a Maori woman, right? Dreadlocks. And I was staying with some white folks, right? And then I began to ask them, what's the situation like culturally, socially? And I began to look at and read the history. And what you see is that, for me and for people around the world, they're always looking for something that offers them hope, liberation, and freedom. You see? And
Yeah.
so, I was really amazed. And I was in Ghana, West Africa, and I met some guys, four guys talking Jamaican patois in Kumasi, you know? And
Okay.
yeah, just talking. So, I shout, I say, "Here, lion, wagwan." And we just, and we were just conversing. And again, it's just incredible the power of the message of hope and of peace that it brought to me, but also bring to other people in terms of a message of emancipation, a message of freedom that it brought.
Wow, 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 wow. So you were on that quest. Tell us now about the story of your conversion, because you know, was it an emptiness that you recognized that this is just not satisfying what I'm longing for? Was it a grand revelation? What exactly led to the transformation from the Rastafarian faith, or was it a combination of all those?
It was interesting because it took a period of a year and a bit, really. And it was interesting. I was in a party in the heart of London, in the West End, and must have been about 4:30 in the morning. Had a spliff in my hand, just there, just cooling out. And I literally heard a voice that says, "What are you doing here? You don't belong here." And sound system was just heavy, and I, for a moment, I thought, boy, this spliff's sweet, but but I heard a voice that was above the music, and I heard it. It was so clear and audible. A few months later, I was meeting with some friends, and every Sunday evening we used to meet and just meditate and beat drums. And I met a Christian guy, and he said to me, had a conversation with me, and spoke about Jesus and quoted about from the book of Proverbs that says, "There's a way that seems right unto a man, but
Wow.
at the end thereof are the ways of death."
Death, yeah.
And I tell him, "Lego that, Jah Rastafari," and you know, and we had this conversation. Anyway, I left this guy, and I went to this place. We were smoking, we were licking chalice, all kind of thing. And in my meditation, the only thing that I was able to meditate on was those scripture verse that this guy was quoting to me.
Wow.
It was just so powerful.
It invaded your mind.
Invaded my mind.
And wow. Now what happened as a result of that?
As a result of that, I began to have some conversation with my best friend,
Okay.
and we were
Was he a
talking.
Rastafarian as well?
He wasn't. I was. He wasn't. But we were just talking, and we talked. We talked about paradise. We talked about Zion, and we talked.
Yeah.
We talked about salvation. Now, I had a problem with Jesus because he was Eurocentric.
Yeah.
I just struggled with that. But we talked about God, and I was having some deep conversation about salvation and what does it mean, and what does it mean to be forgiven of sin. So I was talking these things. What these guys spoke to me about, all those words came back as well. And I remember, I was living with my girlfriend. I said to her, "I can't live with you no more," because there was a conviction hitting me about my whole life and about what I was doing, and everything was just, it's like everything came right before me. My
Wow.
life came under the microscope, and I couldn't explain that. I couldn't explain why I felt guilty. I couldn't explain all of these things, and it was conviction, but I couldn't understand it. And then, it came to a climax that one day my father and I had a very serious argument, and I said, "Listen," I said, "Dad, look, as a Rasta man, I don't deal with violence, but if you behave like that, I'm gonna kill you."
Wow.
And it was so serious, and I had made my mind up that I'm cutting it short, And that day I went to work, but I met an African guy. Now, I've always wanted to go to Africa. I was always inquisitive about Africa. And I met this guy from Africa who came to England, studied theology for 3 years, and 2 weeks before he returned to Nigeria, I met him. And we talked for about 15 minutes, and he spoke about Jesus and the cross and the power of the cross and the power that was displayed and personified on the cross. And that night, as I walked home, I had another encounter. God says, "My son died on the cross for your sins, not Selassie. My son rose from the dead."
Wow. Hallelujah.
It was just powerful. And literally for 3 days, I was wrestling with this. For 3 days. For 3 days and 3 nights, I was wrestling. And then eventually on the third night, I came home and I just went on my knees and I said, "God, I don't believe in this white man, Jesus, but if you're real, help me." And that was just, boom, God just worked undeniably in my life. Just, my eyes open. It was as if I saw God, and I didn't see a blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, because when I see Jesus, him look just like me. You understand? So, you know what I mean? So I see a Jesus that, whatever culture or continent you come from, you could see him there.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. There I stopped smoking ganja. I went to my uncle's house and I said, look, cut off this locks, because God is not dealing with the locks, he's dealing with the heart.
Uh,
And there was such a transformation in me, my thinking, my visual of the world, of the kingdom of God, and the transforming power that I said to my friends, hey, listen, I'm going to church. And for me to go to church, I thought it was a dream.
wow.
I thought it was a
Yeah.
dream.
How long was it since you had been to church at that time?
Years, man, years. I went to funerals.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but it was years. And
Yeah.
I went to church. This guy took me to a church. And, I was in church singing some song, Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine. and I just, oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. And I'm thinking, boy, you okay, man? Maybe you spoke too much spliff, And, I was having this conversation in church,
Yeah.
because I
Wow.
was in a church building.
Yeah.
I was in a
Amazing.
church
Amazing.
building.
Amazing. Wow. How long ago was that, your conversion?
That was 40 years ago.
40 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been
And
on this journey for quite a while.
yes, man, I've been on the journey, but it feel like yesterday.
Yeah.
It feel like yesterday,
That's
because
that's the relevance of the cross and the
that's
impact
the
of it.
relevance of the cross.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what God has done in my life is so powerful. That's why, when I come to Jamaica, I hang out with the guys. You know me. I just want to hang out with people. I tell the guys, look, Jamaica about too much church. Have a whole heap of church. Is the guys on the corner, the guys downtown that just need just that conversation,
Yeah.
that we're gonna talk about history, about life, about journey. What make a man. You know, the difference between religion and salvation. Those are the kind of conversation I have with guys.
Oh, okay. How effective has it been? Because I'm sure you haven't had the experience of being a Rastafarian. Many persons whom you speak with who might not necessarily be a Rasta per se, but they would more cling to that religious sect.
Yeah.
Because of obvious reasons, don't want to hear about Jesus, don't want to hear about a white man again. How effective has your own testimony been in bringing them to the truth and bringing them to enlightenment?
You see, I think for me, it's been very effective over the years. I've seen people come to Jesus, come to faith. And I tell people, you're not coming to a white man. You're not coming to a Eurocentric white man. You're coming to God. We're
Yeah.
talking about the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We're
Amen.
talking about the God who is King of the universe. Okay. So I don't introduce people to a Eurocentric God. I introduce them to Jesus, who is the
Amen.
conquering King. And so I have conversation with people. I respect people. Let me tell you, I when I meet guys, whether they're Rastas or not, I respect everyone. And I sit down, we talk. Obviously, I don't smoke no more, but we rap together, we talk
Yeah.
together.
Hmm.
And I start my conversation from the humanity section, because you see, when I come to Jamaica and I meet guys, I remember I was talking to one guy, and the guy said to me, look, Les, we want to do some business. We want to do some, pig farm and thing. I said, what? Rastaman deal with pork? You know? And but the guy was thinking about his family. And he
Yeah.
said, look, if I buy a goat, he's gonna give me one goat a year. But if I buy a pig, he's gonna give me 38 piglet. Right?
Economics, man.
Yeah, man. So for me, it's about, working with people where they're at. Whether they have locks or not, whether they're a Naya, Bingi, Naya, Bongo man, whatever. And we just work because it's human being. We are brothers. So
Yeah.
I see people as my brothers and my sisters. And if they're in need, my response is, how do we work with them? And
Hmm.
even if they don't come to Jesus, we're still brothers and sisters, in terms of humanity. So with those kind of relationship, man, we talk and we discuss. And they not only hear, but they see, Jesus in me. They see it by my lifestyle, the way I live. I don't judge people. Yeah, I walk with people.
Amazing, 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 amazing. Now, tell us about street pastors, UK. I think it is, or is it? Is there an offshoot? Is there an offshoot here in Jamaica, or is it a global thing?
It's a global thing. Where there, I've often, when I come to Jamaica, we operate down at Halfway Tree section there. We operate out of New Covenant Church, just down there. And so it's down there in Jamaica, it's in Trinidad, it's in Antigua, it's in Guyana, it's in Nigeria, it's in Australia, it's in America.
Wow, wow.
So it's there. So for me, what was important, and in fact, I came to Jamaica because I knew that we had to get the church outside of the four walls. And so part of my scoping was I wanted to come to Jamaica to see how Jamaica deals with the inner city communities. And so when I came to Jamaica, I met up with a guy called Pastor Bobby Wilmot, and he's going to be with the Lord. And I met up with him, and later on I met up with Pastor Bruce Fletcher from Operation Save Jamaica. And
Okay.
I saw the way those guys work with people in the city, and they still, ever since, I've been coming to Jamaica since 1977, and I tried to come to Jamaica every year.
Yeah.
But I saw the way that these guys worked. I thought, this is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
a holistic ministry. They're not just saying to people, sometimes some Christians go, they beat people over there with a 4x4 Bible and say, come to Jesus. These guys engage with these
Mhm.
guys. These guys reason with these guys. These guys look at practical way to help them. When I saw that in Jamaica, I said, boy, I'm going to take that to England. So actually,
Wow.
part of the concept, I got it right there in Trenchtown,
Oh,
in
okay.
Wilmot, in Tivoli,
Yeah.
seeing the way those guys operate down there.
Oh,
And
okay.
brought it back. Those guys came over. We launched it here in England. And, it's all over the country. It's in about 240 locations, and it's
Wow.
global.
Wow. Wow.
We,
Awesome.
we've seen all sorts of things happen. And, the greatest thing about it is every denomination is represented
Hmm.
within the Street Pastors movement.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a great fruit of ministry, and I'm sure many lives are being impacted. With that, has the restrictions of COVID-19 affected the mobility and how you've been able to function, as street pastors?
In some areas, yes, okay,
Okay.
because there's different areas have different restrictions, but many of our initiatives have been working all the way through COVID-19. So
Oh, okay. Great.
don't forget, we've been going out volunteering from 10 o'clock at night until 4 in the morning. Okay,
Mm.
that's when we work in England from 10
In,
o'clock at night
in
until
cold, cold England.
huh?
In cold, cold England.
In cold England.
Wow.
Okay, but because of the restrictions, clubs are closed, bars are closed, dance hall are closed. So so now they work during the late mornings, early afternoon, and early evenings. We've
Okay.
been delivering food to people. We've been looking out for the homeless people. We've been
Mm.
working in shelters to help other charities. We've been working with young people in schools. So we've been doing different things. We've been at the train station, reminding people about a mask, giving them a mask, helping them, just listening to people because people just need someone to talk to.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So
Powerful.
we've been really doing a lot of different things throughout this period. Now we're on the trains as well and the train station because people want to commit suicide. So we're there. We're just saying, just having these conversations to stop people from taking their lives.
Wow, wow. I mean, it's so very powerful to hear that the work of the ministry is going on in these trying times, and I bless God for the heart that God has given you guys the call, the passion to impact individuals in this way. Now, that's a lot on the ministerial side and your own conversion, but tell us about some of your likes, some of the things that you do, your family, and all of that.
Well, well, when I had an injury, but a little injury, but I like cycling on my bike, So
Okay.
yeah. So sometimes I do a lot of cycling.
You could wheelie as well, just
Huh?
could you wheelie? I'm just wondering if you had that stunt cycling in you as well.
When I get excited, I can do all kind of things.
Okay, okay. You,
So,
you you had a love for sport. You growing up in England. Did you fall in love with football?
well, I did, but I didn't do a lot of sports at school because I was conscious that I was very conscious of racism, and I was put
Wow.
off because I saw a lot of the young guys my age did things, won trophies, and the school never even recognized them because they
Oh
were black. So
oh my.
I kicked against that. Um,
Okay.
I was good at cricket. I was good at running, but I just didn't do that. But I do sports for my own pleasure.
Okay.
I'm married, so this year my wife and I celebrate 40 years of marriage, uh,
Amazing.
and that's really fantastic. Um, we've got two children, Jake and Lara, and we've got five grandchildren, and it's just really good just to hang out with them. Our daughter and her husband and three children are living with us, and it's been a real joy just to have
Hmm.
them around at this time.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. What kind of food do you love?
Well, listen, I'm a Caribbean man.
Yeah.
I still like my rice and peas, um, steamed fish, okra,
Yeah.
and I like the bami. You know what I mean, man?
All right. All right. All right.
And what I mean, I'm very much Caribbean. So
Yeah.
when I come down to Jamaica, I go to Port Royal, and you know what I mean, bam,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
at
man.
home.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Port
so
Royal is good.
yeah,
Port
yeah,
Royal
yeah.
is good.
So I still eat my Caribbean food, not too much of it now because there's no sun and I can't burn it off. So I have to watch the cholesterol over here.
Okay, okay. Someone is joking on Facebook and asking if you don't eat any pork now, seeing that you're no longer Rasta.
No, man, I man don't deal with that, man. I man don't deal.
All right, all right. I don't know why you're trying to draw the man out, you know.
No, listen, I gave up pork long time, man. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean? So I don't deal with. I tell people, they say, "Is there anything you don't eat?" I say, "I don't eat pork." You know. So I still don't eat pork. I still don't eat pork.
Tell us about your book. Tell us about your book, the inspiration behind it, and what it's been causing, the change it's been causing in the hearts of many persons.
My first book is called Dreadlocks, and again, I saw so many young kids lack of identity, and I felt that I had to do something to document the fact that you do go through this process in life, and identity is critical for all of us. Cultural identity, as much as spiritual kingdom identity, it's important that people know their roots, where they're coming from. I often quote to young people that Marcus Garvey says, a man does not know his history or his roots is like a tree without roots. And I think it's important for me. I wanted to help people to say, look, it doesn't matter where you've come from or how you start. It's always how you finish. And
Hmm.
so the first book was about that journey of searching for identity, that journey of turmoils, of difficulties. And I wanted to inspire young people. And it has. It was a bestseller, printed in French as much as English. And I've
Wow,
had letters from all over the world with people saying,
wow,
I could relate to that story. And the book is still on sale. People are still buying it. People who read it as children are buying it for their grandchildren, their
wow,
children's children. So
wow.
that was the first book. The other one was Relevant Church.
Yeah.
And I just, being a pastor, I became a pastor as a young guy. And by the time I was 28, 29, I was leading a church of over 1,000 people. And it was really incredible just seeing how church could be a dynamic place, but it also could be a place of great tradition and not being progressive, not
Yeah.
being progressive. And I, I mentioned in that book because I had to change the whole culture over a period of time. The culture of the church is say, we're here for a purpose, for a mission.
Yeah.
We are the church is the only organization that exists for its non-members.
Ah,
Okay.
interesting perspective.
Yeah. And so what happens? We become Christians, and then we get caught up in our tradition,
As
in our,
Christians, yeah,
yeah,
just
as
focusing on
Christians,
us.
and we
Mm.
lock people out. So if they come in, they don't look like us, dress like us, smell like us. We don't want them, you know.
Mm.
And so it's important that we recognize that we've got to look out, and we've got to have a holistic gospel. Okay, it's a holistic gospel. So when I became the one of the first thing I did, I remember I went to church very early, and there was about 250 chairs in the building. So I turned everything round, right? And people came in the church and said, "Where's where's my chair?"
Mm.
So I said, "Look, there's 250 seats there. You know, sit anywhere."
Mm-hmm.
You know, some church, you go to some church meetings and you don't have to prophesy. You don't have to be in the spirit to see where Mr. George going to sit. Master George, sit over there. He's been sitting over there for the last 200 years. You know?
I tell you, yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true. I mean, that is true. That is so very true.
You see, and church becomes predictable and
Yeah,
monotonous. And so I say to church, listen, we exist for our non-members. So anybody could come in here
and get
and
your chair.
get, yeah, and
Yeah.
take your chair. Anybody can come in and feel good. But also, we've got to develop ministry that looks out, so where we are getting out. So not only did I help them to see things differently, we used to just lock down. I used to lock down the church. Once it comes spring, summer, no evening service. We just get the big truck, put the piano on top of the truck, get the choir, put them on the, go into the community, have our service there. They will sing, they'll do drama, and I will speak for about 15 minutes, and everybody gonna talk to people.
Mm. Wow.
I went to every bar, we call them pubs, every bar, I knew the owners. I went to every, say, hey, what's happening? I went and played snooker with them, played darts with them. I didn't drink, you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
went and
yeah,
played.
yeah.
And they just said, Pastor, and anything they're doing, they invite me to come. I took my church there, took the choir there. So when I had a service, they came.
Wow, wow.
I went to the schools, and we took an offering for the school special funds, and then they
Hmm.
said, come and do assembly. So all of these things, the church was about looking out. So
Looking
what
out. Right.
so what happened? When they looked out and went out, people followed them back in.
Amazing. Tell us
You
about the
see?
growth you saw during that period.
Yeah. So incredible growth. We saw an incredible growth from young people, young families, and different people. We had all kinds of cultures of people in the
Wow.
church.
That's amazing.
Yes, because the perspective was we were there for the community. And in the end, we knocked down the church building and we built a building, would probably worth about 2 point something million today, or more. And we recognized, we did a survey and we did a research, a scoping document, and we saw that we were living in the highest teenage pregnancy area within that area.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, come on, let's plan. Let's knock down the building. Let's build a nursery so these young mothers can bring their children, go back to school, go back to college, and get education.
Wow, wow,
And we
wow.
let our building be a building that everybody could do something, education, sport. So it's not just a place that is holy ground. The church is us. We are the church. We are the ecclesia.
Yeah.
Christ lives
Amazing.
in me, not in
Amazing.
you know.
That's a
So
that's a
we
big
did that.
vision. That's a huge vision.
Yeah, we did that, and just grew, and people just really there. I made an application some years ago to a big organization for some money, and two grant people came to see me, and it was really interesting because one of them, elderly woman, and another one, the young girl. You can see she just came out of university. Anyway, we were there 45 minutes, and then the young girl said, "Reverend, I know you." So I said, "Where'd you know me from?"
Yeah.
She said to me, in my primary school, you were my favorite speaker. You used to come and do assembly in my school.
Oh, wow.
So I said to myself, boy, I may get this money a long time, boy.
Amazing,
You know?
amazing testimony. Wow. So relevant church came out of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
relevant. Then the whole journey of street pastors, the ethos of it, caring, listening, and helping,
Yeah.
and just the nuts and bolts. When I came back from Jamaica, it was interesting because I asked about the role of the police, I asked about the role of the church, I asked about the role of government, and all these things. But I read a book years ago by a guy called Dr. Raymond Backey, called Urban Christianity, Urban Christians. And he did an analysis of Chicago. And he looked at all the different people group within that city, what they brought to the city. And he identified the Catholic, the Irish, okay?
Yeah.
And in his analysis, he identified that there were three powers, the three biggest power in any city, in any community, in any nation. They are the government, the church, and the police.
Oh.
Right?
Wow.
And he said the Irish understood the power and the principle of the police. So they encouraged their community to become police officers. That's why you have the O'Malley as chief police officers in America. The Kennedys. They understood the power of politics. The Kennedys, you know what I mean? And all these guys who were Irish.
Mm-hmm.
But they also understood the power of the priests. You understand?
Yeah.
And I got the phrase, the urban trinity. Not the Holy Trinity, the urban Trinity.
The urban.
And these three, when they work together in unison, because invariably they don't work together.
Yeah.
The government are always suspicious of the church. The church always having to pray for the government that they themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes nobody trusts the police. Right? So,
and that's universal.
That's universal. You see, so I said, look, if these three could work together and complement each other, the government has resources. The church has influence.
Yeah.
The police has powers and connections. And if we could work together for good, you understand?
Yeah, definitely.
So I came back and I met with the chief of police, met with the council, government, and I met with the church leaders. And so that book, Street Pastors, talk about the nuts and bolts. We train people. So when street pastors, you want to be a street pastor in Jamaica, you've got to be trained well. And you've got some excellent trainers there in Jamaica. In fact, I'm asking some of those guys to train people in other countries.
Oh, okay.
Because they're excellent trainers.
Yeah.
Every street pastor has to go through training before they go out on the streets.
Amazing.
So the book does that.
Yeah.
And then the other book, the Street Pastors one, Faith on the Street, talks about the people's lives that have been changed.
So that's more of a testimonial.
Testimonial.
Wow. Yes. Amazing. How can we get those books? Still available online via Amazon and so forth?
If you send me an email, we could send or talk to the guys in Jamaica because they may have some in Jamaica, Pastor Bruce, Rhea, or those guys down there, but just connect with me and we could sort something out,
All right. Amazing. Wow. We're out of time, but this conversation certainly has a scope for so much more. But I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the insight. Thank you for the wisdom that you've shared, and many persons have been blessed. And hopefully we'll be able to have a further conversation. But thank you so much, Reverend Les Isaacs. And just a quick question: are you still the pastor at the church that you
No.
started? Well,
no,
I'm not started.
In fact, I haven't pastored the church for 25 years because I run an organization.
Oh, okay.
There's a charity called Ascension Trust. I've just got a message from Jamaica for Pastor Bruce to talk about faith on the street. But talk to Pastor Bruce because those books we could make sure that you'll get some of those, and maybe you could have a competition and your listeners could get one free of charge or
All
something.
right. I actually have a Bible competition going on right now. It's always on my program, so that might very well be a prize that I'd be interested in sharing. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
man.
for that offer.
Yeah, man. We can start that. But I also must to say, thank Eunice Beckford. Eunice has been a great friend, and she hooked us up. I think she's been the
The
link
Liverpool
person.
supporter Eunice Beckford.
Yeah, man. I've known
Okay.
I've known her for years. I've known her for at least 50 years. And her
Okay.
mother. Yeah.
Okay.
Good friend of my
Okay.
family.
All
So
right. All right.
good friend,
Amazing.
good
Amazing.
friend.
Yeah, man. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for connecting and all the very best. And keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much. God bless you
Yeah,
guys.
man. Bless you. Yeah, it's a great chat that with the Reverend Les Isaacs. Hearing the story of his conversion. So many persons, have similar stories of just the bitterness, in a sense, of